Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler, episode number 237. Today's topic is WordCamp Orange County Recap 2017. Let's go around the room real quick, get everyone introduced. Jamal, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jamal Tashan, and I was one of the organizers last weekend, WordCamp Orange County.
Awesome. Good to have you. George, how about you?
Hi, I am George Stefanis. I have never once been to WordCamp Orange County, but I love WordCamps and I love oranges. So,
nice.
Do you like counties?
Depends on the county.
Oh. Some counties have a really nice fair, so
Like Scarborough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good to have you on, George. How about you, Priscilla?
Oh, hi, I'm Priscilla Christian. I was the volunteer organizer of Awesome Volunteers for WordCamp Orange County last weekend.
Sweet. Good to have you here. How about you, Russ?
I'm Russ. I work at WebDev Studios, and I spoke and did some other stuff at WordCamp, including hallway tracks. Hallway track.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Weefald. I'm the project manager at Zeek Interactive. I was on the organizing committee for WordCamp Orange County last weekend. And the WordCamp Orange County, or the Orange County WordPress design meetup first Monday of the month.
Sweet. Good to have you. Steve, how about you?
Hi, I'm Steve Zengin. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I lead the OC WordPress meetup. And I did some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm the lead organizer for WordCamp Orange County.
Sweet. Always good to have you, Steve. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter, and I do a couple shows on WPwatercooler Network. So go over to WPwatercooler.com, click on the links there. You can go check those out. I was the person that did all the swag stuff. So any of the different things other than shirts, but all of the other stuff, including cups and fun things. Yeah, just like what Steve's holding up right there. We had a blast. So let's, we've done these recap shows. We're almost on our 5th year, folks. This is how many years we've been doing this show. And so we've been doing recaps of each of these WordCamps that we've either attended or that we've ran ourselves. And, I didn't want to go through like the nitty gritty of what a WordCamp is and all that stuff. You can go Google that yourselves. But what I wanted to talk about is a little bit about like some of the successes and failures that we had regarding our WordCamp, so that when other folks are doing WordCamps, they can look at our show and say, oh, well, they tried this, it didn't work out, maybe we could do better, or hey, maybe we shouldn't do that at all. And we did some pretty interesting stuff during this particular WordCamp, so I wanted to kind of go through and share some of those things and kind of see how this worked out for us and how maybe it'd work out for somebody else. How about that, guys? What do you think?
Cool.
I think one thing that Orange County does well, and I'll give this credit to the entire organizing staff, is that they always look to see what other camps are doing and figure out how to bring it in-house and how to enhance it, right? And they're very innovative with creating their own things that make them, stand out among the crowd. That's one of my favorite things about WordCamp Orange County, is that I can expect things and I can expect it to be those levels to be risen.
Yeah, I think we've tried really hard to come up with cool and interesting things. I mean, I remember going over to Steve's house, having a great lunch, and sitting around his living room and going, okay, what's the theme going to be like? What are we going to name this thing? What are we going to do? All the different things, and just kind of work through this stuff, and then weekly meetings and stuff. So.
And so that actually did start in December, Russ, just to bring you up to speed. I mean, our first meeting on WordCamp was a little over 6 months ago. And I brought the whole organizing team together. And one of the first things I did was said, okay, what works, what doesn't work? Let's just go through what we've learned from the past.
Also, WordCamp Orange County is always innovative. We came up with the ideas that has never been tested, like the Sunday social and then returning the badges 2 days. These were never tested. So Orange County is a place to test things, and just like Palooza, mentioned that, Steve, that somebody else is trying to do the same in India.
I thought that was very interesting, saying, hey, if you're not going to use your badge, please return it. I thought that was interesting, A, because it has people's names on it, number one. But number two, it's very interesting. It's like, hey, somebody paid for this. If you're not going to be here, why not extend that learning to somebody who maybe couldn't afford it or something? I thought that was very interesting.
And so that's something we tried this year, right? So the goal was to increase the numbers on Sundays, right? So we put a couple things in place on Sunday just to get the attendance up. We see a drop off on Sunday, just like every WordCamp sees a drop off on Sunday, but we have a lot of valuable things, content that happens on Sunday. And so we did introduce the Sunday Social as a motivation to get people to come in on Sunday. And we also had a waiting list going for people that didn't get a ticket that still wanted to come, that were that we're willing to use that ticket on Sunday. So we did have people turn in their badge, and it worked. I mean, it was small this year; it was just a test, but it worked, and we'll enhance it next year.
So did you guys have a list ready, and you counted, like, let's say 8 badges, and the top 8 people, you sent them an email?
That was the goal. It's not exactly how it worked out, but yes, we actually had a waiting list of about 80 people that didn't get tickets to WordCamp. So we had about 15 people volunteer their badge, right? Give up their badge. There was another handful of people that didn't want to give their badge, but basically told us that they weren't coming back on Sunday. And so I emailed the whole list on Saturday night and said, "Hey, we've got some spots open. If you want to come, let me know." And we had a handful of people that responded, and I said, "Yep, we've got spots for all of you. You're on the list. Come on by."
I mean, I think that's interesting, right? Because WordPress is all about open source, and it's kind of like, instead of saying, well, hey, for Sunday, we're going to drop it from $20 to $10 and try to do it with a money incentive. It's like, hey, somebody already paid for this. They're donating this. It's open source, free code, fork it, and have a good time. I thought that was a very interesting thing you guys did.
Yeah, and we were very clear on that in the email to the waiting list. Hey, there's a spot for you on Sunday. There is no charge for this. Somebody donated their badge.
But you will not be getting a T-shirt.
Well, we did have some leftovers.
You
guys had a lot, yeah.
We had a lot of swag this year,
which is awesome.
Yeah, I don't think anybody went home swagless.
No, we're hungry.
Right.
And they also get free food on Sunday.
Hey, I had free food left over on Monday.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude.
And we had
free lunch.
At the Sunday Social, we ordered just the right amount of tacos. Like we had it precisely the right amount of tacos, but plenty of leftover ice cream and beer.
Well, there was a lot of taco food left over. I took it home.
Did you? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
actually
brought containers next time. I bring containers next time.
It was a nice surprise because I thought we would have too much food as far as tacos go. But once I gave the closing remarks, walked across the parking lot to the Sunday Social, it was packed. There had to be 150 people there. So that was really great to see that many people stick around all day on Sunday.
Yeah. The only thing that I would change about the Sunday Social, and I take personal responsibility for this, not suggesting that people start making beer floats.
Oh, that got
yeah. Who do they think they are? Red Robin?
No, beer floats are. I mean, if I were still drinking beer or eating ice cream,
there was an extra unofficial event that was added on Friday, which I thought was really very cool as well. So this is not an official WordCamp event, but as a tradition on the Friday before WordCamp, Brand and Dove hosts a golf tournament, right? And so for those people who play golf or who are interested in golf, right, it's always a fun event, but not everybody is interested in golf. And so the Women Who WP introduced a new event this year, which was go-kart racing at K1 Speed, which I thought was very cool. So they got to play Speed Racer for the day.
It was fun. It was a good time. We had a bunch of people that showed up, both men and women. A lot of the Women Who WP folks were there. It was a really cool event just to kind of see everybody get out there and race. And
that was way fun. I want to do that again. I want to do it a bunch. I'm addicted now.
It's a blast.
That's now where the Women Who WP meetups are going to start being held, is that K1 Raceway.
That would be awesome. That would be great. And so there were a lot of new things this year that worked out well, and we'll continue them next year.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that Brandon Dove's thing is that they do, they do that golf tournament. So you're having something where people are running around outside, having a good time, playing golf and stuff, and then you have people that were like, oh, we want to go be inside, do go karts, and just kind of have a little bit of a balance between there. So if you don't want to do one, you could probably do the other.
And what's great about all of these events, the K1, the golf tournament, the Sunday social, the hallway track, is we really do encourage community at our WordCamp, and we want people to have fun, hang out with friends, make new friends, network, and that's what all those events are about. And so we do quite a bit of that at our WordCamp, which is great.
And speaking of the hallway track thing, a couple years back, it was actually, I think it was the last year of WordCamp San Francisco, if I remember right. Say Reed and I were asked to kind of do this, go run around with the camera from the WordCamp folks, go run around with the camera and interview a bunch of people. And so we did that with great success, and we were like, it'd be kind of cool to do that again. So we've been doing those for the last couple of years at various WordCamps just to kind of see how it worked. This go around, it was like, hey, let's go and talk to folks and figure out what did they enjoy about this particular WordCamp. What things, why do they come back? All of those sorts of things. And it was a kind of a fun experience to have both Russ as well as John Brown kind of act as my say reads, if you will, and go around and say hi to everybody and talk to them and stuff.
Well, and we did actually give people a purpose to be interviewed this time. So we let the cat out of the bag right during open remarks. One of our goals that we set out as a team last December was to apply to bring WordCamp US to Orange County in 2019. And so we did let the crowd in on that and invited everybody to go to the hallway track and be interviewed as to why they like WordCamp Orange County and why it would make a great candidate for WordCamp US. And so we were encouraging that all weekend, which is why a lot of people went and gave interviews at the hallway track.
One of my favorite interviews comes from Bob WP. So I asked Bob, I said, Bob, how would you love if we brought WordCamp US to the West Coast? And I was like, how would you feel if we brought that to Orange County? And he stopped and goes, why not Seattle? And I'm like, Bob, you're killing me here, my man. and then after the interview, he goes, I totally understand what you're doing. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we got a similar I had a similar interaction with Robert Gilmer about Vegas. So
I know.
So, there's nothing wrong with a little friendly competition.
WordCamp envy.
Yeah,
but there's plenty of WordCamp to go around.
Right. We thought of it first.
Right.
So, the sessions were awesome. We had a lot of really good speakers this year. I mean, I got to hand it to Dave Markowski. He was the one who was in charge of speakers this year, and we really did a meticulous job of vetting the people that applied to speak and putting together, a really great team of speakers this year. So we were very, very happy with all the sessions.
The one thing that I love about Orange County is there's a talented pool of people who have been in the community for a long time, and especially with the discussion track that you guys had, I led a discussion about just basic things with plugin development, and I had multiple plugin developers stop in and say, hey. Aaron Holbrook, being one of them, stepped in and said, hey, here's exactly how I escape HTML or I escape stuff. And, he kind of took that over for the last half hour. And it's great to see other people come in, drop their 2 cents and be able to leave, even though maybe he wasn't an official speaker, he got to speak up and say something. And that's one of the things I love about that track.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what Russ is talking about is we've got 4 tracks that go at any given time during our WordCamp. We've got 2 traditional tracks, which are each broken out into 40-minute sessions. So those are just meant as a typical presentation. And then we've got the workshop track, which is kind of meant as education. And then there's the discussion track, which is really just a presenter in front of the group leading a discussion. So it's very much a two-way interaction.
Well, it's really interesting. You know, when you used to go to WordCamp, you know, a few years ago, it was like, hey, here's this localized thing of speakers, or here's this session. Hope you get something. And you know, now we see WordCamps evolving to more interactive stuff because people really want some kind of answers, or they they want to be able to ask something specific that they came up for. And I think one thing Orange County does well is you guys always allow an allotment of time after the presentation for those questions to get answered.
Also, the venue was so good this year. We had lots of chances, and as you mentioned there, Steve, that the venue was the happiness bar. They could contact to everybody, get their answers, so more community interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. The comment at the opening remarks, and my organizing team is constantly making fun of me for this, is one of the questions we got from the crowd is where's the happiness bar? And my standard answer for that is you're standing in it, right? So the whole WordCamp is our happiness bar.
Until somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, so where's the restroom at?" And I'm like, "I have no idea."
That's yeah, absolutely.
It's a happiness bar, not a kiosk. There's a difference.
Making the whole WordCamp a happiness bar it forces people out of their shell, and they gotta become part of the community that way. So that, I think it was a really good idea.
Yeah, and at one point I had a small bit of downtime after I just introduced a speaker, and an attendee came up to me and said, "You know what? I heard what you said about the happiness bar. I have a specific question about this theme that I'm trying to work out." And we just went and sat down and said, "All right, well, let's just go through it." We spent 15 minutes, and I gave her just some quick advice on how to fix what she was having a problem with. And so I was running around all weekend. I don't know how much of that interaction happened, but that was it was a pretty cool interaction.
Yeah, John Brown and I were in the middle of kind of talking with somebody and getting them recorded on Hallway Track, and somebody walks up to John while he was recording and asked a question about Liquid Web, and I was like, "Oh, well, Chris Lemma right over here. You should go talk to him." Because this is what we do, right? You tear down your friends. So it was just it was just funny to kind of see all this happen while I'm trying to hit record. So I was like, all right, so take two, here we go.
I mean, even like the speaker organizer green room was kind of turning into a sort of happiness bar. Like I watched Aaron Holbrook like walk somebody through, like, well, you could do this thing this way. This is how I would do it. It was cool.
Yeah.
The one thing that I actually liked this year about Orange County, besides everything else, is that the previous years where the discussion track was, that was kind of what the speaker room was to do all that. And
the
that was
conference room?
Yeah, but that was actually converted to the discussion. And I actually spent 0 time in the speaker lounge area thing. I was just mingling. I was doing the hallway camp stuff. And I mean, I liked not having that room. You know what I mean?
That may or may not have been by design. We actually did that on purpose. We actually were thinking of just kind of locking up the green room. We didn't, but we did not want anybody hanging out in the green room. That was something that we discussed as an organizing committee. We wanted the speakers out and about, mingling with the rest of the attendees.
I mean, I needed somewhere to sit and edit photos, but yeah.
Yep.
Someplace to draw the backpacks.
I had concerns about that room being the discussion room because it had the conference table in it, but I was outside that room a lot, and every time I poked my nose into that discussion room, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was going great in there. I mean, it was like, wow, that's a really great speaker. That's a really great talk, and it worked well.
Yeah, I totally hear and shared your concerns with that conference table, but I think because everyone was sitting around a table and facing each other for the most part, even though there was a speaker at the front, I think that really encouraged people to talk to each other.
It's almost required now. You almost have to sit in a circle.
Yeah, and I bounced in and out of that room in between each session, and just to kind of listen into what was going on, and each of the speakers that was in that discussion room really were there as facilitators, and they all sort of understood their role, and it worked. I think it went really well.
kudos to the person who picked those people in there, because not everybody could do that.
I wish Dave Margowski was on the call today,
Yeah.
because I have to really give credit to him.
Yeah.
The discussions are kind of interesting, because it's one of those things where, thousands of people apply to speak, right? But you can only select 20, 30, whatever the number is. But it's a chance for those people who applied who didn't get to speak to actually step up and say, hey, maybe here's how I would do whatever you're talking about. And it just shows people that, there's a million different ways to do these things, and you can learn from everybody.
So, I want to talk about speaker selection for a second, because I actually did talk about it while I was stalling for one of the sessions in the beach room. We do have a process that's similar to other WordCamps when we do speaker selection, right? We do a blind selection. So we take all the speaker submissions. Dave designates a committee amongst the organizers, and we look at all the sessions first with no names on it, right? So we look at the titles, the descriptions, and that's our first pass, is we pick just based on content.
And what a daunting task, Steve. Oh my gosh.
It's
a lot.
It's so tough, man.
It is, but I will tell you, I'm bringing this up because I wanted to give some advice to people that are applying to our WordCamp or other WordCamps to speak, especially since WordCamp US is open right now. The people that got our attention are the ones that took our theme and rolled it right into their presentation title and description, right? So the ones who titled it, just become a WordPress superhero, or right, so something about superheroes or comic books, or right, if they wrote it that way, it immediately grabbed our attention. So I know other WordCamps pick speakers this way, and it's just something to keep in mind.
One of the things I did for Vegas when picking speakers is, again, you look at the title and you look at the description, but then I also started looking at, like, okay, how long do I think this talk could actually be? It's like the WordPress dashboard 101. That doesn't need to be a 40-minute thing. That could be a hallway talk, or that could be a lightning talk. And you start going through stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a really, really hard selection. I almost wish there was like a random generator on the WordCamp sites, to where, just like leave it up to fate and let the WordCamp site pick your speakers.
and actually, I will give you another tip to other organizers that might be listening. When we do the blind selection, we put it into an Excel spreadsheet. I told Dave, make sure you randomize them, right? Because somebody will submit 3-4 talks, and if those get grouped in a block, then you start to say, okay, well, this is the same person, and you might only pick one of those out. So we randomized them so that that the speakers that submitted 3 or 4 talks didn't get grouped together, and it makes the selection process a little bit more truly random.
I think credit to you guys as well. When you put out that call for speaker submissions, you said, hey, here's something that we would really like to focus on this year. If you have an idea, do it this way. But what I really liked is that your sessions, after reading that, really followed what you guys were trying to capture.
So something else we did for the speakers this year that we got some good feedback on is we did 2 speaker orientations, right? So it was just 2 different times in case a speaker couldn't make one time or another, and we had them RSVP. But before we had those speaker orientations, we prepared a slide template, right? So we took our theme, we pulled it through to a slide template, and we hadn't done this before. We gave it to the speakers. So as part of the orientation, we said, okay, here's what we expect. Here's what you can expect of our audience, right? Here's a little bit about WordCamp Orange County, and here's the slide template, right? You don't have to use it. You can use your own, but here's one for you if you want it. And I'd say 2/3 of the speakers use that slide template. So cool. As I was walking the sessions, all of our branding was pulled through right to the slide template, which was awesome. It was really, really cool. And they got very creative with it too.
I walked into one of the presentations in the venture room, and I was like, man, that person really knows how to replicate stuff. And then somebody was like, didn't you get the TPS report? And I was like, oh, no, not at all. And but credit to you guys. I mean, like, I've never seen a camp where, I've seen people like use the logo or kind of like embed their own thing or whatever, because, like Vegas says poker chips or whatever. But like, you guys actually had like quality DPI slides ready to roll.
Yep. And so, I got to give a big shout out to Robert Ninehouse, right? So Robert Ninehouse has done the design 8 years running for WordCamp Orange County, and he rocks it every year. We look at his stuff as an organizing committee when we start to see the design come through, and we're just salivating. I mean, it's amazing the kind of design he does. And so all of that design originated with him, and then we pulled it through to all of the pieces. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure we do, which we've done every year, is make sure that branding is consistent throughout the entire WordCamp. So every place we could put design, we did. And I got Jamal's on the call, so I got to give him props as well for really handling. So everywhere there was a screen in the venue or a place to put design or something, that was really Jamal's area of, and that was his responsibility.
You guys, I just got a breaking Google feed alert that Bezos just bought Ninehouse Designs.
Hey, if there's anyone who deserves a truckload of cash, it's that guy.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely.
What I liked about like all the hallways is like where the I love the diesel brew. I probably drank like 9, 10 different of those. But what I liked about it,
my blood was replaced with diesel brew.
yeah, I got a transfusion.
I was just gonna say I had an IV going.
Yeah, but so like literally people where that was, there was like a it's not a whiteboard, but it's like a glass board. But people were like leaving testimonials saying like you should drink this. Why? Like I thought that was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, shout out to Lauren Nason for providing Diesel Brew all weekend. He just does that on a volunteer basis as one of our sponsors. He's done it every year. And Diesel Brew is a big hit at WordCamp Orange County. And
like a true IT specialist, he provided technical support on the keg on Sunday morning when it was malfunctioning.
It's awesome. One of the adjustments that we made that made the sponsors really happy this year, when we got a lot of good feedback on this, is we did move the sponsors to that front hallway. So as you walked into registration, it was just a natural progression to walk down that hallway. But in addition, we put the swag at the end of the hall, right? So you registered at the front of the hall, you got your swag at the end of the hall. So every attendee had to walk by the speakers, or excuse me, the sponsors, twice, right? So they walked by as they were going to the swag, and they walked back from the swag to get into the rest of the venue.
That was a happening hallway. That I've never seen sponsors get so much traction before.
They loved it.
Think about it for a small WordCamp.
I actually refer to that hallway as the sales funnel.
It basically was. Yeah.
People are having fun.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like there's like because the Cove is a co-working space, so they have some of these sort of like phone booths sort of placed around the venue for people to have their private conversations. So I managed to get a photo of somebody from Bluehost and Raquel Landfeld coming out of the phone booth in their superhero getup.
Oh, good. I was hoping to do that.
And, Jason mentioned it very quickly at the beginning, but he was in charge of swag, and the swag this year was exceptional. The swag was really, really awesome. So Jason handled all that. We had masks and capes. So when I started giving opening remarks in the morning, many people in the audience were already wearing a mask and cape, which was cool. We had pint glasses. We had T-shirts. But the pin was the big hit. The pin was the biggest hit, and it was something we just sort of threw in at the end.
Yeah, we weren't even sure we were going to do it.
Dude, pins were...
This
pins,
is the pen.
Yeah.
They're awesome. Hey, listen, we're running out of time, and I would like to thank all of our volunteers, and our organizers were also volunteers. I mean, everybody ran around going, what can I do? What can I do? I had to really think, to be able to put people to work right away, because I had so many people so willing to help. But Joe Dixon, Jen Tucker, Thomas Patrick Levy, Nate Conley, Mike Baker, Joy De Los Santos, Ron Pasillas, and Stephen Harvey. You guys saved our bacon. Thank you so much.
Yes, the volunteers were exceptional. So thank you, Priscilla, for taking care of all that.
and they didn't have to play the song to get you off the stage. So good job on you for doing that. Well, that's about it. It's 11:30. I want to say thank you very much for all of you folks for not only for putting on a great show like we did, but also being able to come here and do a little recap and kind of help the rest of the community out with all the things that we have going on here. So feel free to take a look at our show notes, and we'll have everything kind of all set up in our podcast as well. So go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com. Click on the links to subscribe. If you like this stuff, hit the little thumbs up button. If you really like this stuff and you want other people to be able to learn more about it, hit the share button and share it out with all your folks. I really appreciate it. For everybody else, talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye.
Bye.